think this gonna stop us.
Thank you.
Hey, so we are back in this building. So look, I appreciate you guys, your patience. But hey, this thing is real, and we know what. I don't care what the devil get mad at. I don't care what technology issues that we're gonna have. We're gonna have this conversation. We're gonna have this conversation. I'm just going back in right now, making sure that I'm sharing this again. Make sure you share this. You let everybody know. We got everybody back in the building. We ain't on a blackout. This ain't Black Friday. This is Saturday. So I'm so glad to have people back on. So just for the sake of we started again, let everybody know who you are again. So so we can get this thing started back. So we'll start with you, Chandra.
Okay, my name is Chandra Perry. I'm from Virginia, and of course, I am an educator by trade, and I have just written a book called The Secrets That Young Girls Keep, and of course, my readers know me by Lee Madison, and so I'm just excited to be here. One of my passions, of course, is to just empower women and children, and so I'm great. And I'm just grateful to be a part of this conversation this evening. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Shanita.
Okay, so yeah, first time I didn't give myself my own plug. Shanita Posey, born Flint, Michigan, mostly raised in Columbus, Georgia. Published author of Pretty Little Soldier. You can find it on Amazon.com, either by Kindle or paperback. Retired 4 years now, should be 4 years this July, from 20 years active duty in the Army. And I still reside here in Augusta, and I was previously Mr. Shepherd's S1.
And Stina.
But he was my boss.
Hello again, everyone. My name is Christina Stina, better known as Stina Mickens. Again, I am a banker by day, entrepreneur by weekend and night. I am currently in the process of writing my own book as well. And I am, again, just excited to be here and a lover of people, and I'm willing to do anything I can to help anybody.
All right. So I am so excited to have you guys on. I know for a fact that this show is going to be life-changing for somebody that's out there watching this. And for those that are watching this, I want you guys to really let us know where you're tuning in from. We got people all over. So we got Augusta, Georgia on here. We got Virginia is in where in Virginia? Williamsburg area?
No, I live in Chesapeake, Virginia Beach area.
Okay, yeah, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach area.
Yeah.
We got Tuscaloosa in the building, and today I'm tuning in from Junction City, Kansas, in the middle of America. So we got Laramie right now. Say good evening. What's going on, Laramie? Hey, so we got people. So just in the comments, feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. Thank you for you guys' continued support. And again, I wanted to give a shout out to Twanita Lassiter. Today, I'll be giving out a free book of hers. And you can find her on Poetry Growth in Motions. That's POETREE, Growth in Motion LLC. That's her Facebook page. She's a dope author, a dope person. We got a lot of history. We go back. We served in the same unit. She asked me to be a guest speaker today at her youth conference. It was truly an honor to speak at that. And I'm rocking her t-shirts from the day. And our youth conference said the weight of your words, understanding the weight of your words and the power of your words. And that was so dope today. And you can get her book. It's on Amazon. And it's Letters to My Husband, Overcoming Adversity Through Love. So a lucky guest will be receiving a free book from me signed by her. So we're just going to get into this conversation today. So we got Mr. Cleophas Pelt. He's tuning in from New Jersey, all the way up in New Jersey. And we got my man and Mr. Pelt from New Jersey, and then got my man Kevin Lassiter. He's the husband of Twanita. He's tuning in here at Fort Riley by way of Baltimore. BMO, like he like to say, from Baltimore, Maryland. So I'm so glad. So we back. Before we know this conversation is gonna be dope, because guess what? We had all that stuff, everything go black, but we back on this thing, and it's not gonna stop it because people are gonna be healed today. But I had said freeing yourself. So the topic today is freeing yourself from the trauma of your pain by helping others. So and I just want to get you guys, what are your opinions on that? Like, what does that mean to you from a personal standpoint?
Well, I think that in order for you to be able to help other people, you first got to start with yourself.
Mhm.
So you definitely have to start looking at your own personal pain and dealing with that, because you're going to need to be able to help other people through being able to share the process of what you've gone through, because people are going to look up to you as a person who could, help them as they're going through their own process of healing. So first, in order to be able to help someone else, you first gotta start with yourself. You first gotta start with dealing with whatever that pain is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to piggyback off of what Chandra said, you first have to get the help that you need. And sometimes that help means seeking counsel, be it spiritual counsel or, going to see a counselor, but you first have to deal with your own hurt and your own trauma.
And I think for me, it was kind of different. Like for 20 years in the Army, probably the last 15, once I became a leader, an NCO, I always found myself in positions where I was helping other soldiers in a situation that related to my incidents that I had gone through. So for me, during the time, that was kind of like my therapy to help them. But once I retired from the Army and I actually had to sit in it and look at it for exactly what it was, like the whole entity of it, it was like, okay, wow, I can't run from it no more. So now I really got to look at it and actually deal with it and start my own healing process from there.
So what I really appreciate, I really appreciate what you said there, because it correlates to a post I made on my page the other day. So for those, I do words of wisdom, and I do that to kind of like encourage people, but also encourage myself. Because one thing I am not one of those people that be like, how you feel? Oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. Now every day I don't feel that way. Some days I want to give people a 2-piece in the biscuit. You know what I'm saying? Like some days I don't want to be bothered. Some days I just don't feel it. But what Shanita said though, I said those who have endured suffering can easily recognize it in others and help them heal, because they know firsthand the pain's impact. Now, why I want to bring that up is we can easily see the pain in others and be gravitated to help them heal.
Yep.
But what about we choosing to heal for ourselves?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, that healing piece and choosing to heal is the scariest thing you have to go through.
Yeah.
So what are some of y'all experience about getting to that point of overcoming that fear and deciding to heal?
Probably getting over was to stop basically punking myself out from actually acknowledging what actually happened. And stop with the fear-based emotions of what will people think once they know that this happened to me, and I didn't actually start that piece until after I had retired. I had already written a book, but after I retired was when I really started to heal, or started my healing process, because I'm still working on me. Because I didn't have the Army to keep me running 24/7 so that I wasn't thinking about it. So it was like once that momentum slowed down and I actually had to sit there, whether it was 2:00 in the afternoon or 2:00 in the morning, it was like, oh man, okay, this is real, and I'm sitting in it and I'm feeling it. And some days I didn't know what to do, didn't know who to talk to. And I had to make myself say, okay, Shanita, you got to figure this out. And like I said, I'm still going to counseling. And that was another thing, you know, as African Americans, a lot of us figured that it was taboo to go sit down and talk to somebody, or it was a sign of weakness, or, you know, especially being a Black female. Oh, I'm strong, and, you know, I don't need to do this and that and the third. Like, no, I have weak moments, and that's okay. But in those moments when I choose to deal with it and I choose to talk to somebody to help me off of that ledge, I get that much more stronger. That way, when that trigger is set off again, I can recognize it and I know what it is.
Yeah.
But all you need is Jesus. That's all we need is Jesus, and just pray about it. No. You know, no, you know, we don't do counseling. You know, that ain't what we do. And I'm being facetious right now, but I'm saying that for a reason, because I'm down with Jesus. I love Jesus, but I also go to counseling too. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Jesus put us all here. We all got different experiences. And one of the things about it, and this is about with counseling, what I'm a huge advocate for counseling, and I'm going to turn it over because I want to hear what Stina and Chandra has to say about, you know, about their personal experience of getting to that point. But it's so, I'm a huge advocate for counseling, because when you talk, it's a release. And you're in a place where you don't really feel judged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you can talk, you can start to hear, and you can start to process, and you can start to realize that, hey, the trauma may have been bad, but you can start to process it and put it in this right context so that you can work towards your healing. So, and I said that because you hit the nail on the head. It's so much come from getting over what we're going to perceive what others think because of our culture and our community with the stigma of getting counseling. And I would tell you right now, I'm a huge advocate for it. So, Sandra, it don't really matter what are y'all experience like to get to the point to where you were willing to start the process of healing.
Okay, so for me, I was at a breaking point. I was in a very, very abusive relationship, and he had did one of the worst things that I could possibly go through in that relationship, and I was at a breaking point, and I felt myself reverting back to the hurt little girl that I was, because I also was molested as a child, and so I felt myself going back to that person, and I was tired of giving the enemy power. And I wanted to take the power back. And I wanted to become, you know, happy, and like literally be happy and walk in the freedom of being happy and healed. And so I made the choice to go to a turning point to get the help that I needed. And I started my counseling there. So I just was at a breaking point and I was tired.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was more so at that point in time in my life, I was really getting ready to get married. And before I met the father of my children, I got pretty good at living dysfunctionally and just pretending that everything was okay and that I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I was, you know, molested and raped repeatedly, but I'm okay. You know, I was really good at presenting this package of I'm normal just like everybody else is. But on the inside, I was dying. On the inside, the enemy was having a field day with my mental, with me mentally. And so, you know, I was just really trying to hold it together. And then I met someone and it was getting really serious. And so I was just like, okay, this is what happened. And he was the first person that I told. And Robert, actually, you know who my ex-husband is. And so, and so he basically was the one that was like, I think you should tell someone. And I never told anyone because I was afraid and I lived in fear. And, you know, the stuff that was happening in my home as a child was just so much. And I had seen, you know, him do so many different things to other people that I was just afraid. So I didn't say anything, and I just kept it inside, and it became my normal not to say anything. And so I just got tired, and I felt like I was entering into a new chapter in my life. And I wanted to share that with him because I was like, okay, this person's going to be my husband. So I should be able to at least share this with him. And actually, you know, doing that, I kind of felt better just by telling him. It's almost like, you know, I think about when I'm cooking and you have that pot on the stove and you got a cover on it and that steam is coming. And if you don't remove that cover off that pot, you know, stuff is going to go everywhere. And so I kind of felt like a release just by telling, you know, my husband at that time what happened to me, because I had went years without saying anything. And it was really, really tearing me up mentally, like really, you know.
So I wanted to, oh man, this is so good. So you said something. So, and I like to say that many of us become functionally dysfunctional.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We become functionally dysfunctional because we operating from a place of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And when we operate from a place of pain, it becomes as if a filter on our phone.
Right.
Right.
So where it's not real, but it is impacting how we perceive others seeing us.
Right.
So we get comfortable with putting on that mask, and we get comfortable with hiding that pain, hiding that emotion. We get comfortable with operating in the dysfunction of trying to balance all of those different emotions based off something that happened to us that we really had no control over.
Right.
And what you just said, the control word, I think for the longest I had this, for lack of better terms, victimized mentality.
Yes.
And in that mentality, for me, it made it okay, or it made it excusable to have these toxic behaviors that further led to a pattern of destruction for me, and the types of relationships that I was in, the types of people that I hung around at the time, like in my teenage years. And until I flipped the narrative and made myself look at it different, like, okay, these things happen to me. Like, okay, it doesn't hurt for me to say it because, like I said, I've talked about it and talked through it, and talking to other people and talking to soldiers and talking to, when I came to speak on post after I retired, like I was raped and molested at 7, and it was from a family member and 4 of his friends. And it went on for a year. And their way of controlling my thought process was saying, if you say anything to your mom, she won't love you anymore. And my mom was a single parent. So for a little girl thinking that that's all you have, basically they had achieved that mental control over me. Until I had gotten to the point to where I was like, you know what? I don't even care if I don't have nobody to love me. I don't even want to do this no more. So I'm telling. And as scary as that can be for a child, it's like, for me, I felt like it was me giving in and a sign of weakness. But for me, that was the strongest that I had been in that moment, to be able to say enough is enough.
Right.
And whether they're young little girls or little boys or even adults, like if I could be as I like to say, a sacrificial lamb, to let somebody know that even though I've had the accomplishments that I've had, or the awards that I've had, or positions or whatever, standing here in front of you, I have gone through these things, but I'm still human and I'm still able to go on and still achieve things. So you don't have to basically wear that badge as a scarlet letter saying that because these things happen to me, my life has to end.
Right.
So you hit something. I'm just real quick. You hit something very powerful, because a lot of times we feel if I do my external achievements, that they will mask or cover my internal failures.
Right. You are so correct in that, because for me, it was trying to be this perfect person trying to, for me, it was being good at sports and making sure that my grades were okay and just making sure that I was, meeting this persona of I am normal just like everybody else, but on the inside I was dying, and I didn't say anything for years because I was afraid, and and he had me believing that my mother wasn't going to believe me.
Yep.
And so for me, I ended up running away. That's what I did. So,
Did you have anything to add?
I was just gonna piggyback off of what Miss Shanita was speaking on about how it's the narrative. Like, how are you telling your story? Are you telling your story as a victim? Are you telling your story as a survivor? And that way, you take your painful past from being a prison, and it becomes a passageway where you're sharing your story and you're helping others come across.
Yeah. So this is so powerful because you guys are hitting on some stuff that and I want to talk it from a spiritual standpoint, because when we talk strongholds, I don't think people understand really on the level of in the spiritual realm what they're talking about. So strongholds, I want to look at it from the point of an imprisonment, an invisible imprisonment that imprison you at a state to where it controls you in your thoughts. And what you end up doing is you try to create this world around to give the perception that everything is fine, where on the inside you are like imploding. Like you don't know what's going on. You try to figure it out. And then this is, oh my God, this is the thing that and I just want to talk about it from being, this is why it's so important for us to get to that place, no matter how scary it is, to deal with that pain. Why? Because in that, if we are operating from a place of pain, what we end up doing is we end up trying to we try to compromise from a victim mentality to justify our behaviors, to give us temporary satisfaction, to feel like that's our coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And it can manifest itself in any different form. It can manifest itself through promiscuity. It can manifest itself through drinking, partying, being connected with friends, being uber aggressive with trying to make achievements and all these things. It can do all of that. But the thing about it is you can get all of that and still feel empty on the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to come, to speak from that place of pain. Now, what I do want to talk about is when you got to that place and you got to talk about getting to that place, what were some of the things that helped you, encourage you to take those steps, to take that first leap of faith on your process of going to your healing, getting to your healing?
To me, it was just knowing that greater had to be on the other side. Like, where I was at was a really, really bad place. So what was on the other side can only, like they say, can only go up from here. Like, it couldn't get any worse than it already was. So taking the step towards getting healed couldn't hurt. So why not take the risk, jump out there, see, get the help I need.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything on it?
I just got to the point where I was just tired.
You
just get tired. You can't keep up the charade anymore. So you just get tired and you just like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. Because you start to break down. And if you break down mentally, and after that physically, you just start to break down as well. And so, I just got tired. And then I started thinking about my future. At this point in time, when I was starting to deal with this, I was, getting ready to get married. And I was just thinking about my children that I didn't have at that time, about, wanting to be a good mother. And I was saying to myself, how can I be a good mother or even a good wife to someone if I got so much stuff going on inside of me, And so I just really wanted different. I got tired of looking at myself and having low self-esteem and thinking that I wasn't good enough. And I just got tired of that. I got tired.
So Chandra, you hit something. I was just about to ask. With this, how do you all see yourselves?
Yeah.
Because no, I'm not like all of you guys, like all of you all are very beautiful women, like very beautiful women. But how did you see yourself? Because I can imagine other people seeing you differently than you seeing yourself. So how did that impact you?
Oh, go ahead.
It's well, I guess for my own personal, I can hit on that one. The same person that was my abuser when I was a child would tell me that I was ugly, or would tell me, nobody wanted me, those type of things, like the psychological hook, line, and sinker on me. And for years, physically, my face or my body or whatever, in my mind, I was convinced that I was unattractive. And once I started to, I guess, start my healing process, and I started to love me from the inside, I walked a little different. My back was, a little straighter. I started tending to the things, physically that made me feel good. And it was to a point to where I didn't necessarily care of if this person thought that, I was cute or this and that. I started feeling good about me. Mm-hmm. And for years I was unable to do that because I was basically robbed of self-esteem, and I had to get that back from myself.
Yeah, it's a mindset shift, actually, because how you think affects how you feel, which leads to action. And so for me, I thought I was ugly. We were poor. I would go to school and get talked about because of the fact that I didn't have on the latest fashions, and my hair was always a mess. So, and then the very person who would have their way with me was telling me that I was beautiful. Well, of course, I'm not going to believe you,
Right.
So I had really made it up in my mind that I was not attractive, that I was ugly. And, I had, of course, suicidal thoughts. When I looked into, and I think I put in my book that when I looked in the mirror at myself, I saw nothing, and nothing was looking back at me. And that's how low I had gotten. And so it took time. It took time. And for me to get to the point now where I can call myself beautiful and love the person that I see when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, that took nothing but the hand of God. And of course, going through counseling, getting into that word and knowing what God does say about you, and speaking that stuff out of your mouth and believing it, and just surrounding myself around positive people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So with me, with my experience, my abuser would tell me that I was beautiful or I was pretty. He called me pretty girl. And so to me, I attached pain with being pretty. So I didn't want to be pretty. So I wore the baggy clothes and I made sure that I was unattractive. And anytime anybody would tell me that I was pretty, I would instantly attach that to pain and instantly hate that person. So I never wanted to be attractive. So then what I had to do was reverse it. I had to get in the word and read, who does God say I am? Yeah. He says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. He made me in his image. So I had to really literally retrain my thought process. So to make it where it was okay for me to be pretty. Like for a long time, literally maybe 5 years, I was unable to accept compliments. If anybody would say, "Oh, your hair is pretty," or "You're pretty," I would immediately talk about something else. I wouldn't even say thank you because I didn't want that attention. So I just literally had to reverse it.
Yeah. Mindset shift. Yeah.
Yes.
I really like this because and Christina, you brought up something I want to transition and talk about, triggers. Yeah. Triggers, because from the trauma, and it doesn't matter what trauma you have, from a traumatic experience, we have triggers. And whatever experience we have, we can have triggers. If it's positive or negative, we can have triggers. And I'm going to use one of mine. I have a problem with just drinking straight water. Let me tell y'all why, and it may be sound funny, but in 2003, I deployed to Iraq in OIF-1, and all we had was bottled water that was sitting out in the sun all day for 6 months, and you had to drink it, and it's like drinking hot water, like coffee hot water. So for me, for me to drink water, just drink straight water, like it's a mental thing, and people can laugh about it, but I'm just from that experience, like that impacts me even to this day, and that was 18, 19 years ago. So when I think about that, just from the experience that you have, what are some of the triggers that you guys had? And Stina, you brought it up, but how did you started to manage those triggers? Because guess what? Just because we on a process of healing and we have overcome some things, that doesn't mean that we still don't have to manage those triggers. And I just want to bring that up. What's some of those triggers for you guys?
I think for me, I became very paranoid and fearful because I never knew when he was going to come into my room. And so when I actually started to go to counseling, me and my counselor, I was sharing some things with the counselor. And so, of course, for me, it was always checking the doors 20, 15 times. I'm always going around making sure the doors are locked. I'm trying to make sure that everything, for me, it was safety, feeling safe. And so, that was a big thing for me, feeling safe, because I went so many years not feeling safe. So I have a thing with doors not being locked. And it could be 50 people in a house. Is the door locked? So.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's so good to that's a real good example. And the reason why I bring it up is because think about how some of your triggers impacted your future relationships. And the other person don't know, like, oh, I'm maybe trying to just tell you, hey, I really like your hair, you look nice, or hey, or you like, hey, look, lock the door, and I'm like, okay, cool, but I ain't going to sleep yet. I'm sitting right here by the door. You know what I'm saying? And it can cause a reaction, but they may not even know, how did some of those things and those things from that impacted like your future relationships?
For me, it was my trigger was, and sometimes is, I'm still working on it. Feeling like somebody's trying to have a sense of control over me. And it could be something as simple as, instead of asking me, hey, hey, baby, where you want to eat dinner at? Oh, we going to Red Lobster tonight. Did you ask me? How do you know that's what I want? And for me, it sets it off to where subconsciously I'm back in that zone. I think Christina said it before, like you turn back into that little girl in your mindset. And for me, it was, I wasn't able to fight them off then, but I'm big and I'm grown and I'm strong now. So now I could be a fighter. In some senses when I don't even have to be. But subconsciously, that's what I would run straight to. So for me, that's something that I had to work to get out of once I recognized it. But for a long time, I didn't even recognize it.
Yeah, for me in relationships, again, it goes back to the compliments. I didn't need compliments because to me, I felt like, okay, you with me, so clearly you think I'm pretty. You don't have to tell me every day. I don't need to know how pretty my hair is, and I also didn't give compliments because I didn't need it, so I'm not giving them. So a lot of times I felt myself having issues with the other person, feeling like, okay, how do you really feel about me? Do you think I'm handsome? Like I didn't give them compliments, so that was always an issue with me, and I literally had to train myself to say, "Oh, babe, I like them shoes. Oh, you wearing that shirt? Oh, you got the haircut." Like I had to make myself intentionally give compliments because to me, I don't. And to this day, I still I don't. If somebody I'm in a relationship with, like, "Oh, babe, you pretty. Oh, I like this." I just be like, "Oh, yeah, okay." Not because I'm arrogant or cocky or conceded, but because sometimes it's still an issue with me
Mhm.
receiving compliments. So like you said, it's like a constant battle. Like I constantly have to say, this is okay. You're not that
Right.
same little girl. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me too, when you think you're ugly for so long, it can be a hard thing to accept compliments. So I can
Yeah.
identify with both of them when they were saying that. But another thing for me too was personal space,
Yeah.
getting too close or me, someone touching me innocently, and I was not expecting that, and me kind of like jumping, you
Yeah.
know, just touching my shoulder to get my attention or something like that. And, you know, it, that was an issue, personal space. You
Yeah.
touching me without telling me you getting ready to touch me.
Right.
So,
To me, the touch was like, okay, you touching me for what? Like,
yeah,
is there a
yeah.
reason behind this touch? Like,
Hmm.
what is this touch leading to? So yeah, I identify with that too as well.
Now this is so good because I wanted to kind of explore this subject, holistically, because there can be an innocence on your significant other. You know, they just trying to surprise you and tell you because I'm gonna use you, Shanita. He probably was thinking. I'm just saying. He probably was thinking the last 3 times I asked you where you wanted to go,
You ain't know.
Right.
you said it don't matter, and you got mad because I didn't pick. So this time I picked, and then now you tripping because you. But it's all stems from it's a reason behind that, and that's
Right.
why. That's why I wanted to talk about this. And I'm gonna read some comments, and then I want to shift it to another direction because I think it's that time. But I answer a good friend of mine who's also an author. She said, "Wow, this is needed." She was talking about this conversation, and Mr. Cleophas Pep said, "Our insecurities can lead us to a place of hurt and pain, dysfunctions of all kinds. But sooner or later, you realize this isn't living. There got to be something better out there. So you seek that better place. But first, you must realize I need help. Living in denial is a no-no.
Yeah.
And you guys have hit on that and getting to that place of where, hey, I need help. Because we tell ourselves we good, and no, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the scariest things because when we deal with trauma and pain, we tend to feel of a loss of control.
Mm-hmm.
So maintaining control becomes a very high priority for us.
Yes.
Yep.
Saying I need help is like saying, "Hey, I'm giving up my control."
Yeah. Yep.
So, like, what
Yeah.
you guys think of that?
You are absolutely correct as far as the whole having to maintain control because I'm one of those people. I got to know what's going on.
Right.
If we're getting ready to do something, I need to know all the details, and then there has to be a plan A, plan B, and a plan C, just in case. Got to be in control of everything. Got to be in control of everything. So the moment where stuff goes off track is like, wait a minute, this was not in the plan.
Right.
Yeah. It puts you in a place where you have to be vulnerable. Like you have to say, okay, I relinquish this and I give it to you. And
Mm-hmm.
it makes you
For me, that was
vulnerable.
the
Like,
hardest part, vulnerability. I
Yeah.
hated it. I hated having feelings. I hated being sensitive. Um, all of the quote unquote girly feelings because I
yeah.
felt like I had to be a little more masculine in my approach or a little more aggressive. And I think for the most part, a lot of positions that I held in the military, for me, it enhanced my sense of control.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, transitioning out of the military now that I'm retired is like, as you can see, I'm exploring me, um, getting some feminine stuff that I couldn't do for 20 years. But I'm rediscovering who Shanita is. Letting my guard down a little more and like I said, enjoying me.
And that's really important, being vulnerable, because I think that at some point when you've gone through what we have gone through, being vulnerable to you can be the enemy
Mm-hmm.
because of your past experiences. And so now everything is, I got to be strong.
Yep.
I have to be strong. I have to create this perception of being strong. Even though I'm dying inside, even though I want to be vulnerable with you, oh, I have trust issues because of things that have happened to me. So you say you love me, but what do you really want? You know, do you got an alternative motive? You know, what's going on here? You know, I gotta, my guard is up. You know, my walls are up.
Yeah.
So you hit on something. You hit on something that, like, so there's a lot of, and that's why I say, about dealing with the pain, working on the process of healing, because a lot of times we can block the blessing that God sends us because we are operating from a place of pain.
Right.
Yeah.
And just like what you said, like God is a God of balance. And watch this. We cannot achieve healing unless we're willing to be vulnerable.
Right.
Right.
And that is the most scariest thing. But guess what? And it's funny. It's almost it's an oxymoron. So when you look at it, I want to control, but I'm tired because I'm wearing myself out from having control. But I want to give it over to be vulnerable. But I want to give it up. But I know what I need to get from over here from being vulnerable is here. So it's kind of like you working against yourself. And a lot of times, God can send people to help us process that we end up fighting against because our perception is they got an ulterior motive.
Most definitely.
No. This, that, and the third, or we begin to, and this is one of the scariest things, and I think you guys it's gonna hit home. We start having unrealistic expectations for others,
right?
Just so we can find fault to justify us maintaining control.
Yeah.
For me, it was finding a reason to leave.
Yeah.
I would push people away. I would sabotage a relationship to try to hurry up and find something to be wrong to justify why I was going to be the one to leave that relationship first.
Yep.
I wouldn't give them the opportunity to hurt me. In my mind, it made complete sense.
Yeah.
And that person probably sitting there like, look, I done 98 times out of 100 been good. 2 times that I didn't, you acting as if I didn't do it for 98 times.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, and that goes to what Valencia said. She said in her comment, she said, that's one of the reasons why it's important to know people before you judge them. You never know what people are going through or what they've been through. That is also true, but also we have to realize this truth. Just because you've been through it, that ain't the other person's fault.
Right.
And and I get it, but I just like to have the balance piece. Now we talked about something before we got online, and I want to bring that back up and kind of transition this conversation. So for those that may not know, I was talking to my son's grandmother yesterday, and we had a great conversation. And in that conversation, she brought something up to my attention, and I just wanted to share it with you. So after David became king of Israel, the whole country of Israel, in the 5th chapter of 2 Samuel, the 5th chapter. And after they talked about David being king, anointed king by the elders, in verse 6, it immediately goes into that Israel had to go into the battle, and they was fighting the Jebusites. And the Jebusites were mocking the Israelites because they said, "Oh, we can beat y'all with a lame and a blind man," because they knew the Israelites wouldn't cross the gutter. What the Bible says, in one form it said the gutter or the valley. They knew they wouldn't cross it, so they mocked them. But David told Israel to cross it, and when they crossed it, they defeated the Jebusites. Now, the thing about it, that place where they defeated the Jebusites is now what we call Jerusalem. Now, what I wanted to talk about that was that before they were being mocked because they were afraid to cross the gutter. Once the king spoke and gave them permission, told them to go and cross the gutter, they crossed the gutter, and then what they did was they defeated the enemy. And in the place where they defeated the enemy, where they was being mocked from, it's known as Jerusalem now, what we know, or the place of peace. Now, I say that because the enemy, in a lot of ways, mocked you guys because of your trauma, because he knew as if he continued to mock you, he can keep you over there because he knew the power that you would have once you cross that gutter. And that gutter is symbolic of you guys. It's symbolic of you guys making a decision to choose to heal. Right. Now you guys are across the crossing. You defeated the enemy who was mocking you, and you're at a place of peace, or your Jerusalem. You're on the other side. You're a beacon of hope, a beacon of peace. Now you're in that position where you have taken charge of your process of healing. What some things that you can share with some people who may have gone through some of the similar things that you're going through right now, or may have gone through some of those similar things? What's some things that you can share to encourage them, to let them know that they're not alone, or some things that you want to share with them that you wish somebody would have shared with you? I think that's the best way to answer.
I think when I was still stationed in Fort Gordon, we had a conversation, and in that conversation, if I could go back to tell the younger me one important thing, because I carried it like a crutch for about 30 years, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't something that you asked for.
Right.
So don't look at it like, if I didn't say this, if I didn't do that, if I didn't wear this, there was nothing that you could have done that could have warranted what they did to you.
Yeah.
But what you can choose to do is start your healing process. And if I could say that to anybody that has gone through or is going through, or even to go back, like I said, and tell the younger me, that's a lot of times the most powerful thing that they need to hear. It wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
One thing for me is the self-worth. A lot of times when something like that happens to you, you feel like you're unworthy, you're unvaluable. And I think a lot of times that holds you back from getting your healing, because you don't even think you're worthy of being healed. But once you learn your worth and your value and who God says you are, you'll know you're worthy of being healed.
Yeah. And I would have to agree too that, know that it's not your fault. Know your worth, know your value, and know what God does say about you. But also understand too that healing is a process. You're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. You're going to have setbacks, but you still got to keep going. And you have to know that it is a process. It is a process, and keep that in mind, and don't be too hard on yourself.
Right.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. Go ahead, say it again, Christina.
I was saying, don't be afraid to just go out there and do it, because it can take you 11 days or it can take you 40 years. The sooner you take the jump, the sooner you'll get to your healing. And sometimes you gotta do it scared, even if you're afraid. Still, just do it.
Yeah, still progressing while scared.
So how important is it to tell your younger self, or tell yourself through the process, to forgive yourself from some of the destructive decisions that we made, because we made it in a place of pain? Like when you look back on it, you be like, "Boy, I made some. I made some."
Yeah. I think that as you begin to go through that process of healing, you begin to understand how, when people go through trauma, they're stuck in that time period, whatever age they were. So I think that as you go through that process of healing, you understand that you made those choices because of the fact that you weren't thinking clearly, because your thinking and your mental state was skewed because of what happened to you at that time. And so that's why I say, you gotta, it's important to forgive yourself, and not only forgive yourself, but you also gotta forgive the perpetrator. That's a whole nother conversation right there.
Whole nother conversation.
You gotta be able to forgive them, because the word says that we're supposed to forgive people. And it ain't based upon how we feel, you gotta forgive. So we have to, of course, forgive ourselves and understand and know that it is a process. And it's just a process. I keep going back to that because you got to do the work, and the work is hard.
Yes. So, you hit on something, Chandra. I talked about it on one of my earlier shows, but about forgiveness. It's 3 things that you got to be selfish about. One is your salvation. 2, your mental health.
Yes.
And 3, your forgiveness.
Yes.
So, and the reason why I say that is it's not about the other person.
Right.
Because when you go through that process of forgiveness, you're freeing yourself from the connection with that person, from what that person may have done to you. Because if you're waiting for the person to apologize or to come back and do, like they may do it, they may not. But even if they do it, it may not be what you're looking for. So that's why I said you have to be selfish in that capacity, because it's about you getting yours. Like, look, I ain't worried about nobody else, but for this one, I'm getting mine. I'm gonna forgive. Because,
and it's hard to operate. Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that it's hard to operate and come from a place of wholeness if you've got unforgiveness in your heart, because unforgiveness, if not treated, turns into bitterness.
Yeah.
And then that stuff starts reflecting in your actions and the relationships that you have with people, not just your significant other, but your children and just your working relationships and business. And that stuff can have serious consequences if you're operating in that, and not to mention the health issues that come along with that when your body is in dis-ease because of the fact that you're holding on to something that is literally killing you inside, literally.
Yeah.
My mom, I had my mom, we talked about the power of unforgiveness, the destructive power of unforgiveness. My mother shared her personal testimony. So my father was a pastor of a church over 20 years. And, how, I'm just say this, that some people came home and they ended up voting him out as pastor. My dad took it in stride and moved on. My mama, my mama was like, nope. I know what my husband did. I know how he treated you guys, and you guys are going to do all of this. She said, nah, no way. So she held on to some grudges. She held on to the unforgiveness. And for 9 years, to the point to where she couldn't even attend a wedding. She was hospitalized, and she permanently now has to take high blood pressure medication because of the decision that she made to harbor unforgiveness. So, and just talking about that consequences, that is so real. Now, one of the things that I do want to ask you guys with it is, and it's I think it's going to be pretty dope. But from you guys' experience and the things that you guys went through, what are I'm trying to find the right way of putting it. So the things that you guys went through, how would you how would you share, or what would you do as far as with somebody that may be watching this right now that may feel as if nobody sees them or understands them, what would you say to them?
And for me, it's like I said, even as a NCO or a senior NCO, even in the military, I think you said it before. It's almost like you can sense it. You can sense that person that has that common denominator. And a lot of times, regardless of how much that I've gone through, and I used to be mad. I even asked God at one point, like, why would you give me a heart this big and all of these different things happen to me? But I truly feel like that's part of my purpose. To have a heart that size, to be that person to help other people, even if it's only one or two people. I've helped somebody else off that ledge.
Right. I mean, and what we go through in life really isn't about us. It's really about who you can help. Because, you know, what we went through, other people who are watching or listening have gone through it, and there's probably someone that's going through it right now. But please understand and know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. When you open up that door, there is healing, there's restoration, there's success, there's peace. If you keep going, you got to keep going, because the enemy wants to keep you stuck there. The enemy wants to put those negative things in your mind to make you feel those things about yourself, because I know how it is to look at yourself and not see anything and believe the lies that the enemy is putting in your mind, and believe the lies that the enemy is saying to other people to say to you. So you can't believe the hype. You gotta keep pressing forward. You gotta keep moving, because you know there is an end to that. There's an end to that situation. You know, all of us, the three of us who are here, we're talking about something that happened in our past that did not define who we were, and it did not keep us from doing the things that God has purposed us to do. And so there's pain in your purpose. So you have to keep moving forward, and you have to. You cannot give up. You have to. And all three of us are a living witness that you can go through something so paralyzing that you can go through something that can be so hurtful and that you want to give up, but you can't, because there's people out there that need you, and they need to hear your story, because no one can tell your story like you.
And I would just say that there's help. Like if it's somebody that's in school, they can go seek a counselor. There are hotlines and websites, and even if you don't know how to get it, you can Google it. There's help. It's three ladies. I think I could speak for the other two. If it's somebody that's watching now, you can reach out to me. And I think also it's twofold for us that have been there and are healed. We have to be obedient. So when God shows us someone and he says, hey, go speak to her, do you feel the connection to be drawn to that person? You need to go do it. Like, don't hesitate. Go do it, because their healing is waiting on your obedience.
Amen. Because I kind of feel like I'm a magnet for folks who have gone through, you know, and it's all, and when they come to you, like, I would have never thought. This is what I'm thinking in my head. And I'm like, who am I to say that? Because I did a good job masquerading for years.
So you know,
but it's good though.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
But I was going to say, it's good though for them to come to you, because, you know, like I said before, our story really isn't about us, but it's really about who we can be a blessing to.
Yep.
And it kind of reminds me of Romans, where it talks about how all things come together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. And so although, you know, what we went through was horrible and tragic, God is using that to help us be a blessing to somebody else. Because I'm going to be honest with you, when I was going through, I didn't have anybody. There was nobody for me to look up to. There was nobody for me to call. You know, I didn't have anyone. And so how refreshing it is to be able to say, okay, someone has gone through what I've gone through and they have made it. So if they
Mhm.
are making it and they're doing it, then I
Mhm.
can do it too. And I think that's really what it's all about. And they're not walking in unforgiveness. They're not walking in bitterness. They're not
Uh,
mean. You know,
Right.
mhm.
it didn't defeat them. They're walking in victory. So I think
Uh,
all
Mhm.
of that is important.
yeah.
So listen, man, I'm sitting here smiling from ear to ear because I am like so ecstatic, and you guys are hitting the nail on the head. And one thing I want to do this um, because I think this is very important, especially for somebody that's listening right now. But to you three that's on here with me, I want to publicly celebrate you guys. And the reason why I want to publicly celebrate you guys, because guess what? You guys, all three of you guys are a miracle because you are here today. God's grace got you to this point. And why am I saying that? Is because when you look back over things, you can look back over your personal experience and look at all the decisions that was made. That was because people that went through similar things or have gone through what can look at you guys right now and be like, oh, well, you're so strong and you're so perfect and you're so this. And you look back and be like, boo, if you just knew.
Right.
Exactly.
If only if you knew. So that's why I said I want to celebrate you, because guess what? Even in your mistakes, even in your shortcomings, you endured the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I want to encourage somebody that this is what life looks like. So we see the finished product, but we don't see the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I love to cook. So everybody see my mac and cheese online, but they don't know what I put that thing through. So when you taste it, it's
Yeah.
but that's so just a laugh. But I just want to celebrate you guys, and I want to celebrate anybody that's listening to this right now that may be going through something or may be going through similar. Listen, when you wake up in the morning, that's your miracle.
Yes.
So use that as an opportunity to work towards healing. Use it as an opportunity to tap into others and realize that, hey, you don't have no, like when I went through my thing, as going through my bout of being a single dad and a divorce. I would tell you, it's it's real when you feel like there's nobody else.
Mhm.
You didn't
Yes.
have nobody you can call and talk to. You didn't have nobody else, and you just felt like, dang, you just doing this thing on your own.
Mhm.
And one of the most freeing thing was I had because I started going to counseling, and my counselor called me back to talk to somebody else that was in a similar situation that I was in. And that's when I realized, okay, because when I was going through that situation, I was angry at God. I was mad. I'm being honest with you. I was mad.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
God, look, I've been serving you for as a young man, been going hard for you, going hard in the paint for you, and you allowed all this to happen, and you this and you that. Why you let this happen to me? And God was like, why not? And I was like, what you mean, why not? Like, no, but now I understand, because if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have the heart I have now for people that are going through things.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
And that's why I wanted to publicly celebrate you guys and tell you guys are dope, because I celebrate your strength. Because guess what? I don't think I have it in me to endure what you guys have endured. And I'm being honest. That's why I celebrate you with that, because I was never presented with that.
Mhm.
And that's why, and that's the thing about it. Like, it is so important to celebrate the victories, because that's when you can really realize that you are a victor and not a victim.
Yes.
Right.
And that's why I just wanted to take the time to do that and publicly do it, because it is necessary to do that. Listen, this thing is so good. This thing was beyond what I even thought it was going to be. But now I want you guys to talk a little bit about, put your plug out there for your books. Let me know what you got going on. And then eventually, in a little bit, we're going to give away a book. We're going to give away a book for my good friend Twanita. So we're gonna have a little thing of how we're gonna do that. But go ahead on, let people know what you're doing and how they can get your book, where your book is at. And if you're doing other things, if you got other, big entrepreneur down here, hey, I'm trying to be a blessing to people.
My book is out called The Secrets That Young Girls Keep. And as I stated earlier in the program, I write under the pen name of Lee Madison. I do have a website. It's Lee MDSN. So again, that's lighmdsn.com, where you can go and purchase my book. My book is also available anywhere books are sold, including Amazon. But if you go to my website, please subscribe. And I have other merch up there. I have t-shirts that's talking about walking in beauty, vision, and purpose. And that's something that God gave me about how we as women should be walking in beauty, vision, purpose, beauty, meaning walking in excellence, vision, knowing what it is that God has downloaded in you to do. And then purpose, your why, with your determination, what pushes you to do what you're supposed to be doing. So please go on the website, order my book, get some merch. So grateful to be here with such great people.
Okay, well, I'll jump in. Again, my book is called Pretty Little Soldier. I think I was 5 years shy of retiring when I originally wrote the book. It started off as basically a detox for me to finally accept the different things that had transpired. But what it wound up being was, I guess, a stepping stool. After other people had started reading it, they started having these conversations that they didn't have the confidence to have, or they didn't have the strength to have. It became that pivotal moment for people to say, okay, I need to talk to you about something. It is also sold on Amazon. Like I said, but once I graduate from this degree, originally I wanted to go back into HR, but my heart and my passion is and always will be in helping and being in the service of others. So I'm gonna pray on that one, and hopefully there will be a position for me to where I can still have a platform to help other people.
And my stuff is still under construction, but I've been doing stuff low key and really like out of fear. I haven't just jumped out there. And so thanks to a few friends and family members that are encouraging me to do things. I do have my website under construction. It should be up and running in about a week or so. It's Maria's Creation. And I do cupcakes and other little small treats and desserts. And I also decorate and for small parties. And I also do like monogram cups and anything that you want monogrammed. I do candles. There's a lot of stuff. So once the page is up and running, it's Maria's Creations. But if you need anything until that's up, you can just hit my Facebook page up, Christina Mickens.
All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure I post you guys information into on this chat line. I will also post it onto my personal page and to the conversation Facebook page, because I want people to be able to go get your merchandise. We had a comment. I want to share this comment from my Antha, and she said this. Hold on. There we go. And I got to get you on. Got to get you on. She said, "Thank you for doing the work to heal, ladies, and thank you for speaking out. Y'all are helping so many. Thanking God for your transparency. This is how we help. This right here, and that is why I'm so glad you guys came on, was willing to share, because it's I can't express how I feel how strongly I feel about this, and how this is a blessing to so many people. But with all that, now I want to give some people, for those that's tuning in, what I need you to do is I need you to post a number between 1 and 100. 1 and 100. I want you to go ahead and post a number in the comments between 1 and 100. And the closest number that is to what the number that I have in my head right now will get a free personally signed copy of my good friend Twanita Lassiter book, her latest book. So go ahead and post it. Post. Okay. I see you. I'm gonna give a little bit more to pop in because I know. So so right now I see we got 77, 88, 99, 98, 89. Okay. I'm gonna give just a little bit more to see some pop up. And I will reveal the number that I have in my head right now. 7. Okay. All right. So the person that I see that got closest to the number that I had was Valencia. The number I had in my head was 56. That was the number that I had in my head. So Valencia, if you can, I'll be reaching out to you just to get your address so I can mail you a personally signed copy of her book. I am going to, I'm gonna make sure I have her on here. Listen, when I say she's on fire, this girl is dope. She's an English Nazi. I put it like she's an English Nazi. I like to type things grammatically wrong on her page just to piss her off. But again, I really appreciate you guys coming on tonight. We had the snafu earlier, but this conversation is so dope. I'm gonna go back and watch this later on again just to write down all the nuggets you guys gave. And I'm so proud of you all, and thank you guys for Kirk Franklin said something. He said, your pain is your preparation for your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so profound because I see you guys walking in your boldness. And Anita, I do want to tell you this. Remember our conversation we had. God is going to do a great thing with you. Christina, remember our conversation we had. God, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
And Charlotte, look, I see so much coming from this. I see so many people who wish they had so many people who you're going to bless, who's going to have what you wish that you had, because God is going to use you to speak to their hearts. So thank you guys so much. I thank everybody for tuning in. You guys have a blessed and wonderful day. God bless. Thank you.